Now I'll call the meeting to order. Begin with the pledge of allegiance. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome everyone to the June meeting of the Onekama Township Planning Commission. This time we will introduce ourselves so you can know who we are.
Good evening, my name is Chris Ford.
Fietta Hunt.
Dave Wallace, I'm the chair.
Cindy Von Beckler, and I'm a township board representative.
And
And I am Michelle Swanson, the recording secretary.
very good. You have the agenda. I have one item to add. I guess actually should be under new business. And that would be planning commission vacancies and resignations. As item number one under new business. You have the minutes from the May meeting, which were sent out electronically. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Chair would entertain a motion to approve them. Motion to approve.
Support.
Then moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sign these and get them to the website. Very good. At this time, we open the floor to public comment. I will preface this by saying, this meeting, as those of you who are here know, is about the port, primarily about the Portage Point Inn. It is not a public hearing. It is, so we should not have discussion from the audience during Mr. Gazan's presentation. I am sometimes somewhat lax on those strict rules because I recognize we're a small community of friends and we should get things out when they're important at the moment. So is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. First order of business is the Portage Point Inn and discussion revolving around their special use permit. I think everyone here knows that the special use permit was originally issued in 2014. It was amended in 2017. It was then further amended in 2023 with some minor amendments. And it is my feeling, and I think the feeling of the township, that the special use permit is not a reflection of today's reality. It centers largely around a municipal sewer system that I would say unfortunately didn't happen. I'm sure Mr. Gazan would say unfortunately it didn't happen, but I say that for the environment of the lake. And with that, we need to, I think, have a better handle on what his plan is going forward and how the special use permit might need to be amended to reflect those changes. And that will give the community a better sense of what is happening. They ask me constantly, well, what's up with Portage Point Inn? Say, well, it's still late. And that's about it, you know, so Mr. Gazan, what would you, well, we have questions, but would you like to make a opening statement?
I I'm willing to do this however you want me to do it. I don't have like a display or a petition to make about an amendment or anything at this point, so it's kind of just a review update, as I understand it.
Mhm.
So, you tell me, would you like me to kind of talk first and then you can fire away, or?
Or you want me to hit the bullet?
Yeah, you just, whatever you would like to do is fine with me, so.
Well,
I can kind of give you just a synopsis of what Duncan and I are working at, if you want first, or,
why don't you do that?
okay. You want me to stand up or?
You don't have
Okay,
to.
it's pretty small venue here, so, okay, so, I guess I'll start out by saying that, we are, making progress behind the scenes on, accomplishing the end goal, but it's extraordinarily slow and painful at this point. I have reached out to the new chairman of the village, Wayne Miller. I assume you guys know him. And we've had a fairly lengthy conversation via phone, and we're intending to meet this month. I am gone now that I'm semi-retired and so forth. We disappear for January through May. So I just got back 2 weeks ago, and I'm Duncan's staff. We've had 0 applicants. I think all caught that when we first walked in the door. So we are literally doing everything with ourselves to operate at this point. But I have the goal of hoping that the village has some sunlight in the future for fixing their system, and as a result, adding our needs to their wastewater treatment system. We're gonna try one more time. I also went out and spent the money, did all the engineering work and I bought some additional land, which would require an amendment. But I did buy some land adjacent to our ball fields that would allow us to do our own drain field if we had to. And so I designed it. I have not costed it yet. So, I think I've just been very casual and open with you guys. I'm not looking to make money doing this. I'm not looking to lose money either at this project. So I don't know if it's viable. I don't know what it would cost me to build my own system, maintain my own system, and pump down to that. But it's the only alternative if there's never a sewer, right? I mean, we're gonna have to address it. The second year and a half of that is we go about doing that. That takes a couple of years to get done. And just about that time, the state comes along and drops the hammer on everybody and says, hey, you're no longer going to be able to have drain field systems within this radius of this body of water at these elevations, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden municipal sewer is forced upon us, which it is going to happen. I mean, you're in government, you know that many lakes around the state of Michigan have been forced to put in force mains. And it's kind of just a matter of time when it is gonna happen here. I mean, with Andy's point, and even Wayne Miller was talking about this with me when we first started discussing the existing system. It's like, I was here, he grew up here, I guess, right? He's like, we never understood why we built a municipal wastewater treatment system and then serviced everybody that was high and dry. We should have started with the lowlands. And he said he really sees that was the purpose of the initial system, is that we really needed to address people with all the engineered mounded systems that are within the 600-foot setback of the lake, et cetera, et cetera. You know the regs better than I do probably. So, I'm just rambling because I really don't, it's not like I'm here to make a petition to amend our existing special use permit. We are still trying to accomplish our goal of getting municipal sewer. If that happens, great. If it doesn't, then I would like to petition for an amendment to scale down the commercial side of it dramatically. We took down the superstructure of the casino building that you probably already know, because it was just becoming too weak and we were worried about collapse. So, we left, of course, the foundation and the lower floor to see whether that sewer gets approved. If not, I'd like to petition to ask to put maybe like 4 condos there, I guess, but residential use instead of commercial. But I'm, everything I'm saying, I'm just, at this point, I have no business plan worked out for the absorbing the cost of building our own wastewater treatment system, et cetera. I don't have that. I don't have the numbers to see if it's even financially viable, but it is my goal before I get too old I'd love to renovate that hotel. I've spent a fortune on blueprints for it. And engineering design, that's all done. We've got the steel for it, for heaven's sakes. And I've also got all the engineering work done for the marine side of it. I know that I'm skipping around a little bit, but the ball field cleanup, we started loading the dumpster today. We have very little staff, but I'll be here every Wednesday and Thursday, and I've robbed a couple of employees from my marina down Whitehall. For 2 days a week, they're gonna come up and we're gonna start loading it out. We're also gonna put it on Facebook. If anybody wants to spread the word, there are viable galvanized dock trusses, and some of the floats are still good. If anybody wants to have a residential dock or a dock on a pond or whatever, you can have it. If you come and pick it up, load it yourself and haul it yourself. So we're gonna put that on Facebook Marketplace.
I'd be surprised if you don't get a response.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, so we're gonna spread the word, and that's the bulk of what's on there is the floats, the galvanized trussing, the fire escape from we'll just salvage that we're gonna haul that to the scrapyard, and the rest we're putting in a dumpster. So other than obviously the actual product that I need for the facility, right? So,
Well,
so I'll spitball some more. I know that you discussed with me, hey, the SUP envisions you storing trailers, et cetera, inside. Well, that's phase 3. If we were to talk about amendments to the special use permit, would the planning commission consider amending that phasing? Do you remember the phases we agreed to? I have the prints with me. Does that help? You want me to get the drawings or?
Yeah.
You remember we did this, I think, in 2023. I had said 2024 in my email today. I apologize. It was 2023. But there's phase 1, 2, and 3. And if the planning commission would be willing to consider that amendment, then I could perhaps just put up a small building just to start with and say, hey, we could at least, service what we're doing now, put trailers inside, et cetera, equipment inside, supplies inside for operating, as well as if we did that, could we go ahead and at least apply for the permits from the state of Michigan and the Army Corps of Engineers for the marine side of it before the sewer gets done? We don't need the sewer for that, but.
Do you have to have the sewer for the boat barn?
No, that was always envisioned that it's all little drain cook, it just has one bathroom and that.
Right.
But, and again, I bought all this land over on this side so that I could, and that would be an amendment. So I'm not, but I haven't even figured out the cost yet. So that's not prepared to present an amendment at this point, but.
so when you discuss that phase, is
Here and here.
well, this phase, the phase on the ball field.
Yeah.
Is that no longer the 50-foot tall boat barn?
What I could do is, everything's pretty fluid, right? Because Nancy and I have met many times now over the years, and we've talked about, and I just finished that last December. I had to get the existing condo association, because it was so old, it was done in 1996. I had to get a vote of, I think it was 75%, had to approve, which we did, but it took me 2 years to get this all, for people to understand what we were doing. But now we actually created a thing called the Portage Point Club. And what it really does is it just creates all general common elements that would allow us to do social memberships So they said that they would approve that. If we wanted to go down that road. And that's a way of solving some of their concerns with how big the building was, the boat ramp, the gas dock. Was basically the concerns that.
Those are there.
Yeah.
I guess, my question, is the gas dock still in the plan?
Well, it's in the existing plan.
No,
special use permit, but
But in the plan that's in your head today, is the gas dock there?
not if I can replace it with social memberships and so that, I mean, everything has to eventually boil down to cash flow, right? It's gotta be a workable business plan, because the inn has failed over and over and over again. I don't want, I consider myself a failure already just because it took so long to get here. And I've lost a lot of money doing it, but at the end of the day, I'd like to get it to a place where it has an operating budget that allows it to be maintained nicely instead of poorly, right? And not go bankrupt every so often, which it's done repeatedly since, what, the fifties, basically? Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, so it needs it needs an operating budget that's cash. So I can replace some of the, the gas station, the gas pump and the ramp, and all that could be eliminated if we can get some participation from our neighbors who actually I think they would want to come, but it used to be that this was like a community center for the whole point out there, right? People would come, they could go swimming there and under the hotel would be a fitness center. So, can I get there? I hope so.
Well, the planning commission has no, ability to, promote, and really endorse social memberships. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
It's like selling hot dogs in the cafe.
Certainly not suggesting that. That's more that would be between us, right? I mean, that's the concerned citizens of Portage Lake.
But, the gas dock and the boat ramp and the boat barn kind of are the circle of contention, if you will.
Yeah, so what we have tentatively discussed is that, would be something I'd be willing to do if if I see participation from the neighborhood. The boat building would be dramatically smaller, but we do need something. We do need some kind of a building in order to operate the facilities. I mean, there has to be a place to put lawnmowers and, boat trailers that guests bring, right? So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we approved all those things.
yes,
So,
absolutely. But they approved them in phases. That's why so technically what it says is that I have to do the restoration of the hotel and the commercial aspects first, and then the marine aspects. So,
Is the marina gonna add to your cash flow?
yes,
So basically, kind of what I've been hearing is until the facility starts to turn a profit, some of these other things that aren't gonna create cash flow, they're just gonna kind of be put on the back end.
no, each one of those phases adds to not only the income from the sale of condos, but the operating budget from the HOA. So the hotel would be hugely beneficial for the operating budget of
Oh,
the total
right,
property,
right.
yeah.
Right, but I think kind of like the pole bar's probably not gonna create cash flow.
Well, not in the modified discussion that we're having right now, where we would just shrink it down to a service facility, right? But no, if it were this, that adds operating capital from storing people's boats. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's not just for people associated with it,
Well,
for storage purposes. for that purpose.
no, the way it works is this: if you have a marina, let's just say all these people are keeping
Mhm,
their boats here, right?
mhm.
In the winter, they need to store them.
Right.
They pay you to pull it, clean it,
Right.
pressure wash it, store it.
Mhm.
As well as
Okay.
there would be enough room for, some of our neighbors to store boats in there too.
Okay.
We actually, when we were going through this for 3 years, a lot of neighbors called me and said, hey, are you gonna have enough space for me to put my boat in there?
So 50 feet high is probably rack storage.
No,
No,
we didn't have rack storage, it's that some of the boats need. That was just a maximum, there was like I don't know what the code was, but basically you need a 30-foot door. Because some of the boats are very deep keel sailboats and so forth.
okay.
Yeah, you need a 30-foot door for a boat storage building. So if you have a peak to it, I guess, I don't really remember why we came up with 50 feet, but I think it was had to do with the pitch of the roof.
50 feet to a peak.
Yes, it was 50 feet to the peak, absolutely. That was the maximum height.
So we have the phases out there that you're operating under.
Yeah.
And one of the, I guess I'm gonna just ask, the rumor that I've heard is that your existing seawall in front of the inn is 8-foot pilings
8-foot sheeting, yeah,
or whatever,
yeah, 3 feet in the ground.
and that they are in danger of washing out. And if they wash out, then the Portage Point Inn will become a floating hotel.
Well, it
Not
just
with
would-
these lake levels.
Yeah, it'll be a mess, but yes, I mean, that's why I brought 30-foot sheeting in, yeah.
And so we have a kind of a situation that is not, the red flags aren't out there, but there's maybe a light yellow one is out there for the condition of that seawall. And we have a ball field that's had sheet steel on it for the last 10 years.
I've got a lot of money tied up in it, I'd like to
And,
put it to use, yeah.
you know, my feeling is that the condition of the ball field would go a long way towards, community sentiment towards the Portage Point Inn. You know, and
So let me just throw it out there, could we discuss an amendment to the special use permit to change the phase, to allow me to go to phase 3? Because I've been delayed so long in getting the municipal sewer.
What's phase 3?
That's improvements to the ball fields and the marina. So I could put the heating in the ground, I could replace that old seawall, etc. Reminding you that I still have to get state and federal permits to do that. I have to get an Army Corps of Engineer permit, so that alone takes a couple of years, so.
Nancy, I'm gonna let you react to what I just said.
Just two things. One is, because I noticed that almost I think all of the members of the planning commission are new. So one of the things that was really important, and I think the township attorney Tumber would share this with you, that when the previous planning commission wrote the special use permit, part of the reason for the phasing was making sure that the other pieces of the project didn't get done, money didn't exist, and the hotel never got renovated. So they had felt very strongly that the biggest issue for the community was saving and preserving the Portage Point Inn, the old historic hotel, in some
I'm
manner.
totally.
And
agree
that
with you.
was the basis for the way Tom helped the previous planning commission write those phases and the rationale for that order. Again, you can certainly discuss, whether or not that still plays. The second kind of point of order is with the fact that there's a lawsuit and the stay. The only way we can go forward on having you amend the SUP would be via an agreement that the judge approves, right? So it isn't something that you can amend, as I understand it, part of the SUP and not address the lawsuit. So we have to kind of do that together.
And just so concerned citizens are clear, there's no intention of making motions tonight.
Right, no, I
No.
knew that. I just wanted to make sure everybody.
I'm
understood
I'm not
that
petitioning anything, and I'm certainly not against the idea that it is, the goal is to restore that hotel. Like I said, it's been a lot of money designing that hotel, the restoration, it's all ready to go. But,
Is the lack of sanitary sewer the delay for the hotel?
absolutely,
What sort of condition is the hotel in today?
it's closed.
It's closed, it's sealed.
I closed it
It's not deteriorating.
15 years ago. I put a new roof on it, so it
I
wouldn't
probably
deteriorate.
walked through that hotel 25 or 30 years ago after they started renovating the interior rooms. I think back then, because back then, I think they talked about selling those units as kind of mini units inside the hotel.
Well, that,
They had been nicely redone, at least the units that we walked through.
yeah, I don't know, well, we plan on doing a lot nicer, if I may say. And it is in very rough shape now, but it's got a brand new, we put a new roof on it, so it would be preserved. But so that the structure would be preserved, and the structure is intact. But that being said, and maybe you'll remember this from the 2023 amendment. We got under it when we were doing the engineering work and found out that the whole building is sitting on 9-inch footage. Sitting in the sand. It has no foundation. So we're going to have to lift the whole structure up and build. And that's when we presented that to you, this to make that entire lower floor, a new basement, basically.
And we passed
A
that,
fitness center.
we
Yeah.
passed that as a minor amendment.
Yes, exactly. And a swimming pool in the front yard. So remember we did so. I'm not sure where you were headed with that, but it's not
No,
in a
it was just-
condition
I
where
mean,
you can do anything
watched
like
I
that.
watched the casino deteriorate over time.
Yeah. Oh, I think I know what, maybe this is insightful for you. In, was it 2012? I think we ended up with the place accidentally in 2012. And I won't bore you with the story unless you want to hear it, but, and so when I came onto the property, I have, my background is heavy construction. I've been a marine contractor, heavy civil work. And I said, the infrastructure doesn't look right. So turned out the water system was condemned. There was never a Part 41 septic system approved by the state. The fire marshal notified us that so they were gonna entirely, the whole place would get closed down, all the condos, cottages, you name it, right? And so I agreed, I negotiated with the state and said, hey, if I close the hotel and drop that demand, can we operate on the existing sewage system? Because I don't know how they ever got open, but the system that's there was never approved, and it would never have been approved because it was way too small. The fire suppression system never had enough flow. It was never legal. I don't know how they got open or how it got approved, but it did. And the water system had to be completely replaced. So back when Hugh Rollins was still with us, he put in 3 brilliant wells for us, and now we have a type 1 water system that's inspected quarterly, and it operates, it's producing beautiful water. So anyway, so we started with the infrastructure. That's what initially closed the hotel. And the kitchen, sorry, the commercial kitchen had to be closed too. No, there were no proper waste management for a commercial kitchen, so that's what we're doing now, is we're just limping along, let's just say, and I can't move forward until we have a proper municipal wastewater system. We either build our own municipal system, which I don't know if it's even economically viable to do, but I am checking those costs out. And then you have to do we'd have to do exactly what the village has to be. We have to operate that facility like we run a city, which would be ridiculous for a tiny little development.
Well, it becomes a private sewer with a giant grass covered drain field.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. There's all it's because of because of the density, you have to run it like a type 1 system. You have to do all of the reporting and analysis, and it's just pretty involved. So, yes. It's not like a residential drain field.
Do you mind if I ask this one question?
I'm asked.
Well, the question I have about the private wastewater treatment facility on the ball field. Do you know, if you found out from the road commission, if they would allow you to use the road easement for that,
You mean for a force main?
for a private sewer line
Yes,
in a public right of way?
yes. Yeah, we have researched that, but,
Well,
That's not what we wanted.
Has the current commissioners, there's a whole bunch of new ones.
oh,
Have
no,
they approved that?
no. No, we
Because
haven't.
I don't know, the law in that area is complicated. Maybe, maybe not, but I think that's a critical thing to find out, to see if that's even viable.
Well,
I hope the road commission would find a way to do it, but. I'm not.
yeah, all of the, I mean, before I would even come to you and make a petition to amend down that avenue, I first need to know whether it's even economically viable. I mean, if it started with a base cost of every condo has to sell for $1 million, it's not gonna work. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you may.
Because you brought up the amendment in December of 2023. I remember, and I was not planning commission, and I was not until May, but I had to research it because of something in May. So there were some amendments made because they were considered minor changes.
Yep.
But the major change relative to the cottages wasn't addressed at that time because it was considered major,
The dollhouse.
or the downhouses.
Yeah, we withdrew that.
I'm thinking a different development, but I
Oh.
was involved. That's why I said cottages.
Yeah, well, they are cottages.
Yeah, so then, I remember my first planning commission was gonna be a public hearing on the downhouses, and then that was withdrawn. So I guess where I'm getting with that is, two of the downhouses, as I understand, have been sold.
Mhm.
What I'm having a difficult time with is understanding how under the special use permit, how that was in accordance with that, since the special use permit talked about the downhouses being moved to the area of the ballpark for you to adjust the site plan. And so from my perspective, unless I'm missing something, so that's why I'm asking the
That's a good
question.
question.
You're
Very
in
good.
violation of
The buyers,
special use permit right now, so I'm helping with that.
there you go. The buyers, so again, phasing, right? Phase 3 would be where we would move the existing doll houses down to the ball fields.
The
Right.
6 dollars.
Yep.
Okay,
The buyers of those units bought a site condo. They bought the footprint of where the approved doll houses will go. So so they're subject to the same conditions I have. At some point, maybe, unless we amend it, they would be moving, those doll houses would be moved and they're gonna build exactly what you approved. Do you remember what the new doll houses are? They're 7 instead of 6. They're wider and longer, and they have 2 stories.
the
Yeah.
building, oh wait, a minute, the buildings are still there though,
And they have to be until phase 3 is
so
implemented.
how can somebody buy a
A-
site condo
They're basically buying a piece of land.
when, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I've developed condominiums,
Ah.
you know.
Okay,
That's why I'm having a tough time understanding how a site condo was sold when there's an existing
those,
site plan that had buildings on it.
but those units can't be, basically, there's nothing changes, it's status quo until phase 3 is implemented, right? So those would stay there until we do phase 3, till we're allowed to do phase 3. Does that make sense?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm having trouble with how you can sell a site condo on,
There's some, basically, it'd be, what if I sold the whole place? What if I just sold the entire property, to 1 to 10 people, whatever, right? They're subject to the same conditions I'm subject to. You buy that property, right? You become a partner, if you will, in the deal. Then you have to follow the guidelines of that special use permit when It's when it's implemented. So it's operating, maybe this is a better way of saying it.
I'm trying to understand it from a title insurance or a title viewpoint. That's just not making sense to me.
Well, those units that are there now are sitting on that foundation, that parcel of land that is part of the special use permit, right? They're in that location.
But right now, the doll houses are a condominium themselves.
No, they're site condos. The whole, that track, it's kind of, actually, all the cottages are that way. All those cottages that are there,
Cottages then.
well, because we do have cottages that aren't doll houses. If you go up, Ninth Street, right, it's Ninth Street. All of those cottages that are there, the Lakeview, the Rexwood, or Rexwood's not there anymore, but Avalon, the White Cottage, the Hull House. Those cottages are site condos, right? So the people that own those cottages own a plot of land that they can do whatever they want to do within that, and they pay for their own maintenance. Yeah. Yes, and that's what the doll houses are subject to too.
So if we were following this and the 2023 amendment strictly, and we got to phase 3, you would pick up cottage number 4, let's say.
Yeah.
And you'd move it to the ball field
Yes,
because that cottage, the structure itself wasn't owned by those people who bought the people who bought number 4 that you're calling a site condo.
yeah, they're subject to the same conditions that I.
They have that piece of land where the actual structure was,
Mhm.
and you're gonna move it to the ball field
Well,
and sell it again?
no, the intent of those was to be able to put up employees, right? I remember it was gonna be employee housing. Yeah. That's what the goal was. But, I mean, theoretically, let's just say that we wanted to leave those doll houses on that tract of land, right? All 6 of
The
them.
current,
Right.
one-
Yeah.
where they are right now.
Yeah, because we don't build a boat storage building, and I mean, it's just so fluid for me to be specific, but if we implemented, we got a sewer, we went through all the phases, we get to phase 3, we put up that full-size building, the whole, follow exactly what that special use permit, those doll houses then would be moved down, and I would replace that structure with the approved structure. I don't think that's gonna happen right now, just because it's pretty fluid, but that is potentially what would happen. Does that make sense?
Not in my mind,
It,
not in
what,
my,
well, what would happen if I sold the property, the whole thing? The people would be buying it subject to the current land use rights. So the fact that I sold some of the property, not all of it, doesn't change the zoning. Is that a better way of saying it? Or if I had a partner?
Mhm. So,
Is that, I'm just trying to, I wanna make sure I'm addressing your concern, is it?
go ahead, I wanna look somewhere.
Well, so I'm pleased that, you're doing some work on the ball field. But it sounds like you need to park yourself on either Wayne Miller's doorstep or on Nordland Associates doorstep and
Well,
find out
yeah.
and find out what the sewer answer is.
I met with Norblin on Wednesday morning on my way up.
Uh, Everything beyond that is a what if.
I
And
wasn't, yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit disorganized coming here because I really didn't have like a presentation to make. You know, we're,
And I think, you know, the existing special use permit kind of was, you've used the word fluid. Well, the timetable in the special use permit is beyond fluid. It's just like, well, something may happen, and if something happens, something else might happen, and then we'd have to deal with something else coming along
Yeah. And I look at, I mean, if I had any control over the, you know, the sewer system obviously is something that is outside of my ability to control. I just, so for 8 years, I've struggled, worked with David Meister extensively and Tim Irvin and a lot of other people in the community who want to see a municipal sewer system come in. We had a good thing going with the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, and then that got switched by the, you know, the grant monies that was promised by the US Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Funds, and then the 3-lake system became the 2-lake system, and then, I mean, it was hours, you know, untold amount of efforts went into that, so. I don't know what to say other than nobody is more upset about the municipal sewer system than I am.
Would you be opposed to like sit down with like a few members of the planning commission and literally go through this to get rid of whatever
Sure.
does not apply?
Absolutely. I'm here every Wednesday and Thursday. Duncan can maybe cut me free
I'll try.
or whatever. You tell me when I can drive up most anytime.
Do you have a time schedule for sanitary sewer service? I mean, you talked about, well, if the village doesn't happen, you'll do your own type of system.
Well, that's what I'm researching. I mean, here's the only timeline I can really give you, and that is my wife says, when you turn 70, you're done, we're leaving. So I'm gonna sell the place as is, where is, if I hit 70. I really would like to see it done, but I am getting old. So either my kids are gonna have to take, yeah, I have grandkids
We have
now.
grandchildren to go and visit.
So anyway,
Oh, I understand that one.
yeah, 7 months old, so yeah, now all of a sudden we're moving to Colorado, but anyway,
6 years, we have 6 years to get this done.
yeah, 6 years. Right.
So has there been any engineering work completed to the state to see whether or not the village system? It probably can't
No.
accommodate it, but there'd have to be improvements to accommodate it.
That's. I mean, you're probably familiar with the issues with the system. They have infill. Have to solve the infill problem. That's it. So they don't violate their discharge,
So as you.
which is an existing problem. It's not
So
a
as-
problem that would be created. It does happen.
So if it does come to fruition, then you can make improvements to the village system, which of course means that they have now more revenues being generated.
From Little, not from, they'd be able to handle Andy's Point, Little Eden and us. Yeah.
Right.
Already.
Well, but Little Eden wants to make
They went
improvements.
the other side of the road.
And so that was approved and then they pulled it back because.
Not everybody.
No, well, they had to withdraw their approval of it because they found out that they can't help handle the sewage.
And it's well.
Today. So you can create a special assessment district.
We're,
Is that-
Could we, should have?
yeah. Guess that sums it up.
Well, I mean, I was disappointed when that 2-lake sewer. Hey, I
Well,
mean, I was hoping it was going to be approved.
you know, and the money, the cost, it was, you know,
Kept-
they offered us $22 million. The initial intent was for it to cost a total of 36, I think. And all of a sudden it went up to $68 million. We're like, oh my goodness, this is.
And what was it in 1973? Million and a half,
Right. So,
and people were tearing the survey stakes out of the ground all around the lake.
no. I didn't know that.
All right.
They had a system designed for all around the lake.
In the very early seventies, or might even be in the late sixties,
Wow.
there was I can remember the survey stakes going through Red Park. And you come up, wake up the next morning and survey stakes would be all gone. We don't, that's stinking sewer, we've got 55-gallon drums in our yard, they work just fine. So. It's very unfortunate, it sounds like we're in a kind of a hurry up and wait situation.
Been a long time, yeah.
But I think, Cindy's point of going through this and perhaps trying to,
Have it more accurately reflect whatever fluidity there is at this point and get rid of whatever is not gonna happen and make sure that different findings of fact and all of that, that everything's still good and then subject to any other review that we need.
and I've been in contact with Tom Greer, and so, he's made me very aware of the fact that, you know, don't just jump off a bridge, you know, in a hurry, because, it's gonna take a lot of, cooperative efforts, to, get anything like this done.
So would you like to try and set a date, or you want to just call me or whatever?
I'm good either way personally,
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know if everybody else agrees with doing that. That was just my suggestion.
would there be planning commission members who would be willing to?
Could we get from Mr. Gazan an outline in terms of how he would like to prioritize the phases and what he wants done? I mean, do you have it in your mind in terms of, you know,
I think I heard Nancy say that we really can't change some of this without going to a judge. So I'm not really clear about what we can do without. Am I correct?
Yeah, so there's a lawsuit by CCPL against the township, the planning commission, and Wakefield Municipal Environment. It's currently on stay. We stayed gone to the judge and said we're negotiating for 6 years, I think. As we waited for the sewer, et cetera, because we don't also want to ask everybody to go through trying a case that may not be what it ends up being billed. That being said, the state does call for us being a part of negotiating some sort of settlement. We can take that to the judge. But I don't think I'd be comfortable with the planning commission and Bob just making changes and leaving our issues unresolved in that process with an amended SPP. So we would likely oppose that with the judge. If we can be part of the discussion. And we can.
And I don't even think that's what I was saying. I think what I'm trying to get at is I'm listening to what I'll call fluid comments. And I'm looking at an SUP and I'm trying to get a better understanding by saying what on here is intended to remain and not. That's more for an understanding viewpoint.
So if I may, I'd like to state what Nancy's talking about slightly different. And that is that if you, and I mean, I don't have anything specific in mind, but if township, if the two of us get together and we say, hey, this is what I think we can approve, this is the direction I'm comfortable with, the financials look like that would work. We come up with an amendment we present it to Nancy, right? And say, hey, is this, or to your group?
Right.
And say, hey, is this something that you feel comfortable with? And if they say no, it leaves two options. One, to just go through the litigation, let the judge decide, and it's, you know, it is what it is. Or two, maybe they're gonna say, would you tweak a couple of things that would make us happy? And you see if you can reach a, you know, mediated settlement. Those, does that correct? Is that a fair way of saying it? But at some point, you gotta start planning something, and I get it. We've been at this for 8 years. I'm not gonna, you know, keep trying for municipal sewer forever. But I haven't completely given up on pursuing it, and neither David Meister is still willing to, you know, put his time in, so. If we wanna keep pursuing municipal sewer for the benefit of the community and, you know, all of us, great, let's keep trying. But I'm certainly not against coming up with another business plan. It just needs to work, it has to leave the place sustainable.
Would it be appropriate for you as a representative to concerned citizens to detail what the issues are, or is it?
I'd be happy to reiterate, and I've been pretty clear in all my written comments, et cetera. So our issues are with the idea of a working marina at Portage Point. Those are our most important. The lawsuit has many, but those are the most important issues to us. So we object to a gas stop. We object to the boat haul out on 9th Street because we would argue that, the deed that established the Portage Point Summer Resort Corporation, that the whole development gave us access as landowners to those road ends. Therefore, the township can give away the public's right to access the water right there, but they can't give away those of us who own property on that. So particularly for the people up 9th Street, the fact that the township and the road commission gave away to the Portage Point Inn, or gave up their right to the road end, couldn't be vacated because the judge had previously said, no, you can't do that. So on the 9th Street issue, so the boat haul out is an issue for us there, and the access particularly for people on 9th Street. And our issue with the boat barn, as we told Bob, is the size and the light industrial use. The idea of a storage building probably is not, those are the killer issues in our mind. If we can agree to a settlement that takes out the commercial marina aspect of the Portage Point Inn, we're probably pretty close to something that we could agree to. The issue always with Bob, when we've been sitting down to do this, is his condo issue, which now sounds like how the condo association was structured, and understanding his cost and feasibility for a septic solution, which doesn't seem like it's still close to being resolved until what you've always told us is, until I know that, I can't really negotiate because I don't know my total cost structure. And I don't know if I can give up the working arena pieces of the project and find any other way to get through it. It sounds like that's still where.
That's,
Is
yeah,
that clear, Bob?
I think you just nailed it. That summarized it, yeah, pretty much.
So it sort of puts the ball.
I hate to ask,
Mr. Bradford,
just have one question, that's primarily for you, Nancy. Are you suggesting that the stay that the judge issued prevents our planning commission from issuing any, or having a hearing to potentially amend the special use permit? Is that the document that does that?
Yes, I believe so. It certainly gives me the right to go back to the judge and say, hey, they're moving forward with changes. We want to bring it into the court instead of.
Because the
doing it
language in here doesn't specifically say that, it says that you should be generally apprised and kept informed.
I think if you read all the legalese, it says that the stay could be vacated. I can decide that our group could decide that we're no longer happy to have the case on stay and decide to move forward to the judge at any point in time.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
not, that's what I'm getting at, that's not specific to what that's,
Yeah.
but there's a section you can have the statement if you weren't happy.
Yeah.
So I guess my other question is, and I was, I was on the planning commission years ago, I'm on the township board now. But Bob, it feels like you gotta figure this out with CCPL for this to move forward, and, we're gonna be sitting here 3 years from now. What I'm hearing today. So
Well,
as a representative of the voters of this township, I mean, I think everybody's frustrated with the lack of progress on that, and some of that feels to me like it was self-imposed, but, so I think you guys need to work it out and figure it out, and at the end of the day, my opinion only is if Mr. Gazan can't have a viable economic model to run that hotel, then that hotel's gonna get bulldozed, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. That's my opinion. That's all.
so the only comment or add I would like to make for that is that if we come up with a new business plan that is, involves an amendment, and the township says, yes, we can approve that, there are two alternatives to settling with CCPL. One is to go to them and say, this is what we came up with. It deletes, 3 of the 4 things you were concerned with. Can you go along with that? They said no, then the way to resolve the conflict is just to fight it out in court, right? Let the judge decide whether CCPL's concerns are strong enough to overturn the township's decision. But at the end of the day, it begins with an amendment or it begins with what we've already approved and or any amendment to that. And I look at my goal is, and I think Nancy is too, I would love to see Portage Point Inn be the community center for the whole point, all the neighbors joining in, coming and feeling like they're part of the inn, the whole community. And that's then that revenue center, if people buy a social membership and pay a small amount of dues every year, that adds up. That could offset a lot of the operating capital that's needed to make that place viable. But, until we know what the cost of, I don't even know what the sewer solution looks like at this point, and that's that, if we can't solve the septic issue in some fashion, yeah, you bulldoze the hotel and, put a couple of cottages there and sell them, I guess, I don't know. That's a whole, talk about fluid, right? I don't wanna create confusion by just rambling, but that is kind of the spectrum of options, right? You just bulldoze everything, make some empty lots, put up a couple of nice cottages and
So
move on.
if I could just.
Yeah.
One, CCPL has been and always will be ready to sit down and talk at any point in time in detail. We haven't had many discussions because so many of these questions are unknown and Bob wasn't in a position to negotiate on details, right, other than concepts. 2, I think what CCPL and certainly my sense of the broader community would say that preserving the hotel and that building is a worthy goal, and if we would certainly be supportive of that, whether or not it's the center of the community and a big community center, I think may be less critical to many people than Bob's description. If it was stable and operating and the condo owner, it's filled up with condos and that's what the solution is, I think people would feel better about that than their current concerns, which is it's gonna deteriorate, have to be bulldozed and used. So we're willing to sit down and talk at any point in time. I guess the question back is, are we really ready to sit and wait for the village to take action, which they may or may not be able to do, and for how long? That will be the question my board has, that I would have to answer is like, so we're gonna go back to the judge and say, we're still gonna sit another year while we wait for maybe, hopefully, the village will decide they can figure out how to deal with their sewer system.
And
That will be a big question for Mike.
and that would certainly be a big question in my mind, is the timeline for the village solution 3 years, and the timeline for a private sewer 2 years,
Well,
and
I mean, I think you've been around for a long time. Do you know Wayne Miller pretty well?
I know when this.
Socially? I think David Meister knows him quite well. Is there anybody else that would be willing to go along and meet with the village?
well, I mean, I know Wayne, because he saved my house.
Well, there we go then. I'm just throwing ideas out here, but whatever would help unify the village's needs and desires and the townships and the individuals in the township like myself. Maybe that's a good meeting to have everybody at. I don't,
And that was related to the sewer?
yeah. With fixing the village's sewer system.
Quick comment, I mean, I think you probably know more about this, Chris, than I do, but I understand the village is about to embark on close to $2 million repairs to the existing sewer. And they have, is that correct, or?
Yeah.
Because they've had lice and abandoned, right, do a bunch of engineering work, but I mean, ultimately, the sewer discussion is also gonna revolve around costs, right? And who's gonna pay for it, so. It's-
Primary problem for the village is a lot of infiltration of groundwater.
Right, and I think that's what, that's gonna get, I guess they selected a contractor, right, for hired to do that.
Did they find the leak? Did they found them in, because
There's.
they did
hundreds of
find.
yards
Yeah.
that are
Wow,
gonna be redone.
wow.
It's adding volume capacity to the sewer system that they can remove.
So, well, that's really good news. That's, I mean, that's first I've heard of that, so that's it, that solves the problem.
Well, I don't know
Uh,
that, we'd have to ask.
Sounded more like that.
But, that it would help, but I don't think it's gonna be a significant improvement where you're gonna pick up a lot of capacity in that sewer system.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers, but from what I was told, it's the infill was significant, so.
Okay.
One other concern I have, kind of unrelated to everything that's been talked about, but we mentioned, or it was mentioned the casino was demolished. As I drive past that, I'm just concerned that they have an orange snow fence. Really isn't an adequate safety barrier. Because there's there's that basement and a drop off. Just troubles me. It looks to me like an accident waiting.
I would, the code enforcement officer was supposed to show up at Portage Point Inn today.
Hmm.
And make a list. He's not writing tickets, he's making a list. I don't know if Mike showed up or not today. You don't. Sneaking through the bushes or whatever.
We were in the marina all day.
But that would be the kind of thing he would look at if that was a safety concern. And
There may be some sections of that fencing that are rough shape, but
so. So we want to have a meeting with a small planning commission subcommittee meeting, just to review things in this which aren't really germane to today's world. And we want to have a meeting, or at least encourage the meeting with Wayne Miller and the village. Whatever the answer is. But, as each day that goes by without an answer is another day when you're saying, I don't have a plan.
well, I still have a plan, but yes, yeah. I don't know if it can be.
what we can and cannot change, or if we can't change, I know you said that it's there, but it would be nice to confirm that we can't do anything without a judge. Or, I don't know if it's just the things that are in the lawsuit, it's the whole SUP.
Well, yeah, we challenged the SU,
Okay,
so, yeah.
yeah,
basically.
I would just like to.
I mean, you certainly should talk to Tom Greer, again,
Yeah.
this was.
Any,
So we spend a whole bunch of time, I mean, it's great to have discussions and find out where you are and where you're gonna be, but in the end, if we can't touch it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy, I think it was just, your suggestion was just to meet informally. To look
To
at,
try to
look
get
at
an
that twenty
understanding
seventeen
of what's
amendment
on here that really is not
in Bob's mind today.
correct. To
Yeah,
get an
that's the
understanding,
way I read it, which is inform. With
to
no
try to get an
change.
understanding, which may or may not take a next step. I don't know the answer to that, but you know, if you get so many questions and if you read this. I mean, just the little bit that I've heard tonight, there's a lot of things in here that probably are not gonna happen, that probably both groups would agree to. I would just like, I think it would be helpful to the planning commission and helpful to the community potentially in the long run to have a better understanding. And then we can determine what we need to do, if anything, to move forward. But to start talking about amendments on new stuff when I think this is still up in the air, just doesn't make sense.
and anything discussed. First copy would go to Tom Greer. And the second copy would go to you. So that we, make sure.
But I didn't have a problem having anybody else there. I mean, I think it's hard to have that kind of discussion when you're not sitting here looking at this page by page and saying, okay, and getting that kind of an understanding. It's just right now, it seems like we're just having this loosey-goosey kind of fluid up here discussion. And I'm sitting here trying to say, okay, how does that equate to stuff I'm seeing on here? Yeah, I don't care who's there. Yes, no, maybe.
Any interest on this side of the room?
Yeah, but if it happens.
Well, it can happen if we get,
It's like a public meeting, no quorum thing, just small.
The only reason I'm suggesting, I mean, I could go over to Portia Point Inn and talk to Bob personally and just say, hey, help me understand. I was just trying to move at least a thought process forward on what currently exists. If there is something that currently exists that there's no way in the world it's ever gonna move forward for whatever reason, I would like to have that understanding.
And then you basically then go in and reprioritize
Right, and
what's
then if
left out of that twenty seventeen document. And then you come up with a modified phasing schedule,
right, and then if something does need to be amended,
then you go through the process.
then go through whatever the process is that needs to be amended, but to just keep revisiting and revisiting, and to me, it's just, we're not getting anywhere.
and I don't know, but maybe the items in contention are their bargaining chips, but so is the phasing. And maybe one would offset the other.
Well, certainly, what I'm quite sure of is in a lawsuit that the parties can all sit down and talk. So I guess my concern would be for the planning commission and Bob to agree on something. And then, us not having a voice and having to then cause you to go back to do it. If everybody wants to sit down and a small group of people from all of the folks, that makes sense to me as well, but, as I said, we would be happy if we could get rid of the operating marina and you're ready to move forward on eliminating that from the plan, we could solve the lawsuit, I would think, quite quickly. Bob's not been willing to do that until he understands all his costs, so
Well,
that's, I think, the
I
question.
can appreciate that he needs to pay for the sewer. That's in order to have the end.
Well, if we were to do this with, let's say, 2 planning commissioners and Bob, Nancy, if you were available,
I'd be happy to.
I don't think we'd be violating the Open Meetings Act.
But I don't see any reason not to have it. I mean, if people wanna come, they come, but I mean,
Well, if there's more form, we have to.
Yeah, she knows.
I think it would be, anything you have to do, it would be a good idea just to notify the public, probably.
right.
Probably I won't show up.
Oh, I don't believe that a minute, can.
Again, I would have to go talk to him. I'm not sure that, certainly in a negotiating session, that's part of resolving.
But this
the
isn't
lawsuit.
even negotiating.
Yeah.
This is just
Understand.
saying, hi, here is FB. Is there any possibility that's gonna happen just from his perspective only right now to try to understand it?
That's fine.
And yes, if you had 2 planning commissioners, it's not subject to the Open Meetings Act, but again, I see no
There you go.
reason not to have whoever wants to be here.
Only 5 now.
Stay tuned.
For the second.
That's not new business.
But if you're amenable to that, I mean, again, and even,
Just, do you have my number?
no, but I can get it.
Shape it.
Yeah.
Done with it.
Well, I didn't really intend for us to come to a solution tonight, but, I think the conversation has been useful. I think the focus on the sewer and the 2 options for the sewer. Because I think you have to be proceeding at flank speed on the village, and at the same time getting the costs for option B, so that you know what your choices are.
Those wheels are in motion.
And
That would involve an amendment, because then I have to add that extra piece of land to the special use permit.
I don't think we'd fill the fire hall with people over getting a sewer for the board to put in. So. Anything else that,
Probably if you get this, two subcommittees together, I guess, think, I mean, I wouldn't mind, because it would at least make people more aware of what's going on,
Right.
learn what.
We could have quorum as long as we publicized it, right? Yeah, so.
I mean, I've read that one seventeen on that.
Yeah, but it does help to like slow down.
Yeah, it's like you can't even go to the bathroom without permission.
and would CCPL just like to be informed, or would they like to
She may be here.
maybe be here if you're around?
Yeah, for sure, I would like to be informed and if it's.
Yes, I was,
Uh,
yes, sir.
So, and I certainly don't object to having Nancy at a meeting, but I do find that, if it is a general meeting and then 30 people show up, nothing gets accomplished, just end up off on tangents for hours, and what you could have done in 15 minutes. Takes. Well, I don't know, do you have to have, if you have a quorum, does it have to have 30 people in the audience as well? I mean, is that, or can you have can't you have a closed door, something or other, I don't know.
Not a public comment, you can silence.
Anyway,
Yeah, normally there's not
just,
much.
it sometimes turns into chaos, but whatever, if you wanna do it, that's fine. however you wanna do it.
Ed,
Just a question on, you said, the county enforcement guy was gonna go inspect the local or whatever. Whether he did or didn't, when that gets done, if he's identified any, issues with compliance with the current conditions and stuff that he's throwing, what's the process for informing Bob about that so that they can get corrected?
well, I'll find out from the zoning administrator if he indeed went out there. That's the first thing for me to do.
What I'm saying is, if he has found violations, what's the steps on?
I don't know what enforcement procedures are.
So I would suggest that there be a conversation with Bob to say, look, we found this, we'd like to see if you can get it corrected, obviously, which I think is their standard operating procedure, or any tickets or anything like that is issued. With the idea of, we want to just make sure that we're doing things appropriately, because there's provisions in the settlement agreement that reference, being in compliance and all that sort of stuff. And I greatly appreciate the effort to clean up the ball back, and I think that goes a long, long ways towards following all the community comments. But if there's other things that are, that are easily fixed, that would be great.
And all we need to do is convince the community that the ball field is not your neighbor next door.
Two problems.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming tonight,
Thank you for your time.
and,
I need a couple last names. Duncan, which one is it?
I don't have a last. Marshal Service is tired of relocating.
It's like Cher and Madonna.
It's McColl,
McCall?
McColl,
OLL. And, Nancy, what's your,
Swans.
well, I guess I could spell that.
Yeah.
There
Like the tea.
we go,
Like hers.
like me.
okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Get back to work.
Thank you.
Keep on keeping on. Chris sent out a text version of the dark sky. The village uses. Did anybody have a chance to look at it? A little bit?
I have a question, yeah. So I forwarded this email from Mary Riley, and she made a comment about, will it be zoning amendment or new regulatory ordinance? I didn't understand.
Well, if it's in the zone, then you look at the biggest thing is grandfather. So if it's in the zoning code, anybody doesn't apply to grandfather in unless until they come and make a change or modification. If it's outside of the zoning code and it's just codified in the code of ordinances, then nothing would be grandfathered.
And what were we?
This was part of the zoning.
I just had a question about the gas station canopy. I was just wondering if it could just be canopy lighting, make it more general. Otherwise, this was great. Is there a reason why it's only gas
Yeah,
station?
where are you at?
I'm on
Okay,
3.
you're on 3. Got it.
You're on.
Could it just be canopy lighting and apply? I mean, I realize that there might not be other things. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, you could.
it sort of sounds like spot zoning, but to say gas station.
So, let's see. I'm trying to recall why it's
We don't-
called out, because the definition is a canopy structure.
So could you add such a gas station under the definition of infrastructure? Or no?
I don't think it would be necessary. I think, I'm not recalling why it was singled out as gas station, but you're right. I mean, you could easily remove gas station and just call it canopy lighting because canopy is fine.
Yeah,
Well, like, in the village, West Shore Bank is a canopy structure. Because you can go to the ATM there
Oh,
and vehicles can pass through it. And I certainly don't think they need the same lighting standards that a gas station does.
The other things that Mary mentioned was, is there capacity for enforcement? But if it's a zoning amendment, would you have to deal with this much? It's just new, and that would be approved.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the zoning.
And then just changing village to township. Those are my comments.
I don't think this is anything we need to rush into, and perhaps we get some new insight when more of the chairs are full. If you'd like, we can move on to new business. Okay? Good. New business, this morning I received an email from Rob Johnson. Dear Chairman Wallace and members of the Onekama Township Planning Commission, it's with a heavy heart that I submit my resignation from the Township Planning Commission, effective immediately. This decision was not made lightly, but after careful consideration, I believe it is necessary at this time. Serving on the commission has been a privilege, and I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the growth and well-being of Onekama Township. The experience has been both educational and rewarding, and I am thankful for the knowledge I have gained and the collaborative efforts with our members. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the late Jim Trout for his dedicated service, and to you, Chairman Dave Wallace, for your steadfast leadership and commitment to our community. Your tireless efforts have been an inspiration and have greatly benefited Onekama Township. I did not pay for that sentence. Thank you once again. Yeah.
Later.
Thank you once again for the opportunity to serve. I wish the commission continued success in its endeavors to shape a vibrant future for our township. Sincerely, Rob Johnson. Rob did tell me that he has accepted a position on the county 911 board, and that's going to be taking up a lot of his time along with the fire chief. So that suddenly gives us 2 vacancies on the planning commission. And lo and behold, at this time, we've put ads out for planning commission members, and we got 2 responses. So instead of being faced with 2 applicants and 1 position, we are faced with 2 applicants and 2 positions. The 2 applicants we had were David Gleason, who's a resident in Red Park, and Ted Ahrens, who lives down on Crescent Beach Road beyond your house. So I don't know what else, is that right? Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Crescent Beach Road.
Towards the chain.
Towards the chain, yeah. I don't know if any of you know them.
I may have met, she was
He ran,
a couple of times.
Dave Gleason ran for
You read.
township trustee.
Yeah, I've met him before.
And I don't think I've ever met Ted Aaron, but you have.
I have.
What's the process?
The process is, you've been told who we have applying, and we could ask them to come in for interviews. You could just say, hey, I know them, and that'd be a great addition. And then we recommend to Supervisor Meister that he make those appointments, and he makes the appointments, not us.
Well, not knowing anything about them, I can't speak unless I would like to make reference calls or something.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, knowing both of them a little bit, I mean, neither one has planning commission experience, so I don't think it's like weighing that one has more experience for serving than the other. So,
We don't have to choose, it sounds like, so it's just.
no, but I was just saying, you know, just when I reviewed their applications or resumes.
Was that what was in the email? From,
There was,
I think Jennifer's.
Yeah.
Jennifer's kind of on it, there's very, yeah,
oh,
you know, they both just expressed a desire to make the community a better place to live. And,
Do you know what their background is?
Dave Gleason is, military. He's,
should we get a resume or something that gives a little more detail? Yeah, their experiences.
you know, and, I mean, I don't think short of Mr. Forth here, nobody comes to the planning commission with a lot of planning and zoning experience. We all kind of wandered in. I mean, I did wander in 25 years ago and do it, but, it's not the kind of thing you forget.
No, well, you have it downstate, but we were.
Yeah, I mean, it was a much different planning commission because we actually did zoning.
Yeah.
And we've yet to see a zoning change in this township.
No, the village is way ahead of you. Because we made changes to the lighting ordinance, we made changes.
No, I mean like a-
parking and all.
Oh.
I'm speaking of changes from ag 1 to residential 2 or something.
I guess I'm not following you on what changes. But
People coming in saying, I want to change the zoning on this plan.
Yes, right. Oh, yeah.
We never,
We've changed things.
oh yeah, we do text amendments and things like
Oh,
that.
I'll have to take a deep dive into the fairgrounds. You know,
So what's your pleasure for movement on these 2 applications?
It would be good to ask to interview them. Have a conversation with them.
I agree.
I agree.
And do. I always feel it's a little unfair to have one applicant sitting here listening to the other applicant being
You can't
interviewed.
restrict them. You can't restrict them.
What does that mean?
You can't restrict. It's an open meeting. You can't. I mean, if one's sitting here when the other one's being interviewed. they have that right.
One of us can interview them and provide them information, or it has to be in a public meeting. Just asking.
Or you can't schedule one for 8 o'clock and one for 8:15.
Yeah, but you can't restrict the one at 8:15 from not being here at 8. It's an open meeting.
It has to happen in the meeting, but we don't all need to be here at the meeting,
Well, I would,
because I might trust your. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to be there, but this is new to me. I've never been involved in this process. I've just been told so-and-so's on the board in the past, so I'm used to
Yeah.
the old days.
I don't know, were you interviewed?
I sent a letter. That was it. But I think some people knew me.
All I do is send.
I sent a letter.
We used to do interviews back when in my professional days. Yeah, we would interview candidates. Well, I didn't. The planning commission did. I was just there for the staff.
Mhm.
well, the only reason, I mean, and if you feel comfortable just approving them, that's fine. The only reason I said interview is because you approached them, that, wow, there's not much here. I don't know anything
Right.
about them. And so at
Right.
least if you had a conversation with them, you would
Can we ask them
have some
to
information.
come and present a little bit of information about themselves, maybe? Less of an interview, more of a,
Basically, we just come and summarize their resume.
and meet them.
You know, I mean, because I mean, if Mr. Gleason was military, in what capacity was he in the military? You know, maybe what he did there would,
Applicable.
yeah, right. Would be helpful here.
Well, and I suppose really wouldn't matter if they were here at the same time. I mean, if they're
Both.
two applicants, and
Yeah, they're not
two
buying.
vacancies, they're not exactly competing against each other.
I think it'd be okay.
When you have your candidate forums, everybody's there and here's everybody else's
Mhm.
answer. So I mean,
Yeah, you're experienced in that.
Yeah, we heard every candidate say, I support the master plan. And I think it got to Dave Gleason and he said, well, it's been said 6 times already, and I support the master plan.
So the next question is, did you read it?
Actually, Dave Gleason did. So. And we want to try to have a special meeting to get them approved before for the next township board meeting.
So
I would like that. Get them,
sure, so our meeting's July 19th, maybe? Does that sound
Yeah.
right?
seven,
It's my 17.
Yeah, and the township board will be township board be the 16th or the 9th?
Is it the second Wednesday or the third?
No, it's the third now.
And
Okay,
that's-
so I said the 19th, it was the 16th.
So if we could try to meet,
The week of the 7th?
Thursday the 10th, maybe?
yeah. Well, let me see what I can talk to the 2 candidates and see what their schedules look like and so you folks will be available like around the 10th,
I am.
Chris?
If it's the 17th, like, 2 kids in total.
No, but he's trying to do it before.
I'm
the
trying to
board
do it
meeting.
so the township board can act
We
on
got
it.
done it on the 16th.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Moving right
So
along,
you're gonna talk to them first before we settle in on the date of the meeting.
only to invite them to see if they're available for the 10th.
Or I can
Okay.
record it and let you,
Yeah, that would be fine. I'm not available on the 10th.
you know, I can take. Like, that's all we're gonna do, right?
Yes.
That's all we're gonna do, yes. With that, is there further public comments?
Let's go back to that safety issue that I'm concerned about, because I didn't realize Mike is the Serbrook, right, is the code
Yes.
enforcement.
Yes.
He's not building enforcement, he's not gonna be looking at that fence. And so, I mean, you mentioned before that demolition occurred without a permit. The permit should have come from the Bureau of Construction Codes from the state for demolition, so I just don't think that flimsy plastic fence is adequate when there's like an 8 or 9 foot drop off on the back of it into that basement.
Well, I was told he got the demolition permit after the fact from zoning administrator for $10.
No one even administer, okay, there's the do demolition, it's a form of construction. There's a form from the state, it's form 324. He should have applied to the state for that, because we don't have building inspectors in the county of Michigan.
Well,
There may be a land use permit as well, I don't know, but
So about the fencing, who would be the person to respond to that?
I would contact the Bureau of Construction Codes in, well, the state, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of the local enforcement officer. There is one, that works regularly in Manistee County. I think he's from Manistee. Only can,
all right,
but if you Google it, there's like a map of who covers what areas with the names and phone numbers.
okay. Anything else? Going, we're adjourned.